Hello, all. David Debato here, and this is the No Delusion Zone live. If you're watching it on YouTube, then please become a subscriber. If you're watching it on my Substack, which is protectingtherepublic.com, I encourage you also to be a subscriber. But again, welcome to the live version of the No Delusion Zone on Friday, April 24th, 2026. Another day of lunacy in the People's Republic, the fascist republic of Magaville here in the United States. For those of you that are paying attention, which is most of you, I think, the war in Iran is not going really well for Donald Trump. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. And again, for those of you that have been paying attention, I think 3 of the alleged goals for Donald Trump starting a war in Iran was regime change, preventing Iran from getting nuclear weapons, and keeping the free flow of oil and gas through the Strait of Hormuz. None of those goals have been achieved at all. 0. And right now, as I said, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. In fact, the Iranians are making more money today, more revenue, collecting fees, about $2 million per vessel, than they were before the war. So if Trump's goal, or one of his goals, was to deprive Iran of oil and gas revenue, he's failed there too. They're charging vessels about $2 million to pass through the strait after they've inspected it and make sure that it's not connected with Israel or the United States. And they're taking that money right into their federal coffers. They don't even have to produce anything. All they have to do is demand payment from these ships that pass through. Ching, ching, the money goes right in their coffers, and they're real happy about that. So congratulations on that too, Donald Trump. Another job well done. Also with the war in Iran, the catastrophe in Iran, it looks like some kind of a land action, boots on the ground action by the American military is imminent. I'm told by some of the people that I know on the inside, as well as just reading any of the news from current and retired military and intelligence experts, that a ground action of some kind by the American military may happen, as early as this weekend, or more possibly next week. Just to follow up on that, about 2,500 additional Marines and a 3rd aircraft carrier strike group led by the, what do we have here? The H.W. Bush. Let me get that on screen here. There we go. The USS George H.W. Bush aircraft carrier and its accompanying strike group is now in theater and ready to strike if given the order. And as I said, some additional 2,500 Marines, and about a week or so ago, about 10,000 additional troops, mostly, I believe, paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne, as well as Special Operations Forces, arrived in theater, which now makes a total of between 50 and 60,000 American troops in the theater of operations, the area of operations, ready to do whatever the lunatic Donald Trump asks them to do. And, you know, one of the many catastrophes that America has done to itself, shot itself in the foot, is the depletion of our precision munitions, staggeringly expensive precision, technically complicated munitions that we have fired in this insane war against Iran. Let me just put up some short graphics here about that. This was from CNN. And you can read it with me. The U.S. military has burned through its key missile stockpiles in the Iran war. 45% of precision strike missiles used. Half of all THAAD interceptors gone. Patriot missiles down nearly 50%, and 30% of Tomahawk cruise missiles depleted. This is from the Wall Street Journal, not exactly a bastion of liberal progressive thought. And it says, this is again coming from the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. has burned through so many munitions in Iran that some administration officials increasingly assess that America couldn't fully execute contingency plans to defend Taiwan if a Chinese invasion occurred in the near term, U.S. officials said. And further, and I'm not going to read all of this, but basically it's talking about how many of our cruise missiles have been used, our Tomahawk cruise missiles specifically, Patriot missiles, and how expensive they are. Patriots specifically, $4 million a pop. More than 1,200 of those have been used. And here's the deal. With Patriot missiles specifically, we've used 1,200 of them in this brief war in Iran. The United States only manufactures about 600 per year. So it's easy to do the math, even for me. That means we've burned through 2 years of Patriot missiles at $4 million a missile already. And I don't know how many we have in the stockpile. Hopefully a lot, but it's not unlimited. It's not infinite. And we've already burned through 2 years on what is absolutely, so far, an unsuccessful military mission with no end in sight and, in fact, no goal in sight. Why are the ground troops there? Why isn't a ground invasion imminent? Well, it's been imminent from the very beginning, because in Donald Trump's demented mind, one of the many crazy missions that he wants the U.S. military to deploy on is to seize the enriched material, the enriched nuclear material that's buried deep down inside of some of the Iranian nuclear facilities. Let me just throw this graphic up. This is the Isfahan nuclear complex, one of the three main nuclear complexes that we are aware of. And this is a shot taken in 2024, and another one in February 10th of 2026. And the whole point of this particular graphic, if you can look at it, is that the Iranians buried the entrance to this Isfahan site under tons and tons of dirt and gravel and boulders to make it even more inaccessible, not only to American bombs and precision munitions, but for any ill-fated ground strike with probably special operators to try to dig all that out and get down to the approximately 100-meter facility underground. Let me throw in some clips here about this. This is a brief clip about the nuclear sites that I'm talking about, the very, very deep underground sites in Iran, and the difficulties that would entail any attempt by American military forces to extract the material.
Over the last 2 years, there's been a series of tunnels constructed in a mountain near the Iranian nuclear site at Natanz. Now, these tunnel systems are really worrying both non-proliferation experts as well as intelligence analysts who've been monitoring the construction for years via satellite photos.
We compared the two entrance and exit of the underground facility, which we know the actual height, the elevation of those at the mountain, and we know the elevation of the mountain itself. And this underground facility, we estimate to be anywhere between 80 and 100 meters below ground. The depth of the facility is a concern because it would be much harder to destroy using conventional weapons, such as like a typical bunker buster bomb. And so the Iranians are trying to build resiliency into their program, and it's evident here.
For its part, Iran says that its nuclear program is peaceful, that it follows and complies with the orders of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and that it does not seek to build a nuclear weapon. However, over the last couple of months, we've heard Iranian officials increasingly talk about their ability to build a bomb should they choose to do so. Both America and Israel said they're not going to allow Iran to build a nuclear weapon, and both have been blamed for sabotage attacks on Iran's program in the past. What experts fear is that this new construction could push what's been a shadowy conflict out into the open.
Insanity. Insanity. The best experts that I've been able to talk to or to read about say that the only possible way, and it's not a good way, for the material to be extracted from those very heavily buried and deep underground sites is with specially trained special forces. But there's a lot of problems with that. One is getting them there. How are they going to get there? Are they going to be parachuted in? Okay, they'd have to fly across the half of the Iranian country. Don't you think they would be targeted by the Iranians, who still do have a very good anti-aircraft capability? Assuming they didn't get shot out of the sky in their aircraft or shot when they were parachuting in, let's assume that they made it on the ground. Let's even assume that they were able to get the heavy material, the digging material, the equipment down with them to dig down up to 100 meters. Okay, how are they going to be extracted? Meaning the operators and the material. The same way over land? I don't think so. By air? That would be insane. So how are they going to get out of there? I don't know. And I don't think they know either, because as with everything else in this mission, I don't think anybody's thought this through. The people who have thought it through, the people who know what they're talking about, the American military, the senior military and intelligence experts do know that that would be an insane mission to try to undertake for the American military. And I am sure that they have voiced that opinion to Trump, Hegseth, and all the other tone-deaf MAGA cult members, and it's fallen on deaf ears. So if they're going to launch that crazy mission or not, I don't know. They can also launch an insane mission to try to seize Karg Island, something that's been discussed ad nauseum on all social media, including this one. That would be crazy. I don't want to, go into that again. But for many, many reasons, whether it was the U.S. Marines or the 82nd Airborne, if they were to drop in, parachute in, or stage a sea-based assault on Karg Island, they may or may not make it there before they're either shot down or blown out of the water. And even if they did seize Karg Island, which I'm sure they could, they would be sitting ducks for any number of munitions, any number of missiles or drones that would attack them once they are on Karg Island. It would be a very, very unfortunate and bloody affair for whatever U.S. military was unlucky enough to have the mission to seize and occupy Karg Island. The last thing I'm going to say for today, talking about lunacy and insane and insulting actions that MAGA has taken, Donald Trump just announced that he has invited his good friend Vladimir Putin to the G20 summit this December in Miami, Florida. For those of you that might not know, Putin has been adjudicated by the International Criminal Court as a war criminal. He should be arrested when he leaves Russia by any country that's a signatory to the ICC. But you say, America's not a signatory. We don't agree with the International Criminal Court. That's true. So if Putin were to come to the United States, and yes, I remember he came to Alaska last year and he wasn't arrested, and that was a disgrace. I talked and wrote about that. So if for some horrible reason he actually does come to Miami and Donald Trump is still in power, I'm sure he will not be arrested. That will be one of the biggest disgraces and black marks in American history. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But the mere fact that Trump invited Putin, an adjudicated war criminal, to come to the United States of America this year, I think that says it all. And that's going to be all for me today. Please let me ask all of you to buy me a coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com, if you will, buymeacoffee.com/no-delusion-zone and buy me a coffee, or become a monthly subscriber there. And you'll see that when you go there, you can Do a 7-day free trial for $5 a month, or go to the gold level for $20 a month. Or if you're like me and you want to use a QR code, you can use your phone and put it onto this, and that will allow you to make a donation or to become a member, to buy me a coffee, what have you, on buymeacoffee.com. So get your cell phones out, your iPhones or your Androids, whatever. Put it up to this code right here and buy David a coffee. Buy the No Delusion Zone a coffee. So the voice of the opposition, one of the voices of the opposition to MAGA, can stay on the air. And that's about it for today. Again, this is the No Delusion Zone. Become a subscriber here on YouTube. Become a subscriber on my website, protectingtherepublic.com. I will see you again tomorrow, which is Saturday, with some more lunacy, I'm sure, and the latest from the war in Iran and what's going on here in America and probably in Europe. So until then, I would ask you all to please take care, stay safe, and stay sane.